Hi everybody, it's Jenny from the Missouri Star Quilt Company, and I have such a fun project for you today. This was one of those projects I started. I had a pattern all planned out, and right in the middle of it, the fabric didn't want that. It wanted something else, and this is the outcome. We have the pumpkin spice quilt. So let's take a look at this. Isn't this fun? Now, this is so much easier than it looks, and I can't wait to show you, but it's just so fun, and I love when the fabric speaks to me. So to make this quilt, we used one packet, one roll. This would be a roll if they rolled it, but it's a packet of 2.5-inch strips, and it's Brandywine Batiks by Kathy Engel for Island Batiks, and it's just a really fun line. And originally, again, I did not think this was going to be a pumpkin quilt, but when I got going, it just wanted pumpkins so bad, so that's what we did. All right, so you're gonna need a roll of those, which is 40. You're gonna need a 1/4 yard of accent fabric. Now that's for all your little stems and your leaves right around here, and on all the pumpkins. Now I actually got away with kind of scrapping it up and using some of my 2.5-inch pieces, leftover pieces for those, but to be safe, if you wanna make sure you have them, I'll get that 1/4 yard. All right, you're going to have background fabric, which is this white right here, this cream, and you're going to need 2 3/4 yards for that, but it takes, you know, it does so much, and it just fills out the blocks. You're also going to need, your outer border is 1 1/4 yards, and this is a 5-inch border. For your backing right here, you're going to need 5 3/4 yards, and look at the pattern we quilted it with, the pumpkin pattern. It's such a darling pattern. And all right, so you're also going to need 1/2 yard of heat and bond, and that's going to come in when we start putting on all those little stems. So let me show you how to make this, because this is really fun. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your orange strips out, and you're going to make pumpkins first, and we are going to sew 4 together, and I'm going to sew these in sets of 2. So I have 2 sewn right here, and I have 2 sewn right here, and these are just 1/4-inch seams all the way down. And I want to put these together so they go kind of, you know, I'm not too matchy, and my colors are different. And so I'm just going to lay these on top of each other and sew a seam right down this side. And it's going to be a 1/4-inch seam. And then that will make me have 4 sewn together. So let's just go ahead and sew down this side. All right, I always go about like 10 inches, and then I reline it up to make sure it's matching really nice. All right, so we're done with that, and we now have 4 2.5-inch strips sewn together to make a strip set like this. Now we're going to press these, and when you press these, I like to press from the top first to make sure that there are no little creases or tucks. And so I'm going to press from the top like this, and you're going to do your whole set. And then I'm going to flip it over and make my seams go the way I want them to. Now I like to press them kind of all going the same direction, just mostly because that's easy. And you might have a few stubborn spots because of the way you pressed it on the top, but you can make those behave with a little bit of steam and heat. All right. All right, now what we're going to do, and this is the fun part, I think this is the fun part, we're going to fold this in half. And every strip set, you're going to have 4 of these strip sets, and every strip set we're going to do the same thing to. So line it up. I'm going to move this stuff out of the way, just push it up here a little bit. So line this up right here on your board. Make sure your strips are together and you're lined up nice and straight. And then what we're going to do first is we're going to clean up this first edge. So I'm going to lay my see how this is off right here? I need to make sure that This is one straight edge because this is going to be the beginning of a pumpkin. All right. So we're just going to toss that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to cut 2 5-inch strips from here like this. We're going to cut 2 6-inch strips. So I'm going to move this over here. And we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 right here. And then 2 9-inch pieces. So now we're going to count to 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, so we have 2 5s, 2 6s, and 2 9s. Now this little piece here on the end, I'm going to take it right now and I'm going to cut it into a 2.5-inch strip because I'm going to end up using those little pieces in my border. So see here I have little pieces of orange and things like that. So I was able to capture some of those off the end of my strip to just pop in there and make it fun. All right, so here's our 6-inch ones and our 5-inch ones. Now these 5-inchers, we're going to start with these, and these are, they're going to become, we're going to take these apart in half. And so I'm just going to take these apart. Don't try this at home. Anyway, you could try it at home if you want. Now, batik fabric tends to be a little bit fragile, so be careful when you do that. You can always use your seam ripper and take it right apart. But what we're going to have now is we're going to have a pumpkin, 2 little 5-inch pumpkins, and one's going to go sideways and one's going to go tall like this. So this is how we see, so hopefully you can see this. So one's going to go sideways and one's going to go tall. So you can see right here. So here's one. So here's the sideways one, and here's the tall pumpkin over here. And so that's going to be the same with the 6-inchers, but we don't have to take those apart. One's going to be sideways like this, and one's going to be tall like this. Our 9-inch ones, we're going to do the same thing with. And mostly because it's not going to be that much difference on the 9. It's about a 1/2 inch difference. But it gets, you know, with the stripes going different ways, it really adds to the quilt. All right, so the first thing you're going to do with your blocks is you're going to snowball them. So we're going to start with our 5s. And I have a bunch of these blocks done. But on the 5-inch ones, I used 1.5 inch Snowball Corners. So I have some strips cut from my background fabric. This is an 1.5 inch strip, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it in half twice, like this, and then I'm just going to make my little cut. Where's my little ruler? Oh, here it is. And then I'm just going to trim off my selvage edge, like this, and then I'm going to come over here and cut 1.5 inch, and because it's already an 1.5 inch strip, these are going to be square, and we're going to put one of these on all 4 corners, like this. So we'll just lay them on here, and you can draw the line or iron it. I have sewn so many of these that I can just eyeball from here to here and stay nice and straight. So that's what you have to remember. For the 5-inch pumpkins, no matter which direction they're going, you're going to snowball all 4 corners. For the 6-inch ones, we're going to do 2-inch squares. So I have a 2-inch strip that I've cut here. And again, it's folded in 4ths. And I just want to cut off my selvage edge like this. I'm going to cut in at the half mark and then come over here and cut 2. So then this one's going to have the 2-inch, and the big one over here, these are 2.5 inch squares. So those are your measurements for snowballing your corners. And I'll just go ahead and cut this one so you can see what I'm doing here. Line up my selvages a little better. Make a cut, 2.5, and then I can just lay my 2.5 ruler right along the edge. And then I've got 4 of these for the big pumpkin. All right, so let's start with this little guy. And I'm not going to do all of these because it's the same thing no matter what size it is. But I'm going to line my square up in the corner, and then I'm actually just going to start sewing, and I'm going to look for where it's going. And it's such a short little seam. These are actually great ones to practice on. You can put a pin in there if you want. You can draw the line. Whatever is easiest for you. You could even iron the line. And then this over here. Keep going. And then to this side. So you do this to all your pumpkins, no matter whether they're going up or down or whatever. You're going to do it to all your pumpkin blocks. I'm just trimming these off 1/4 of an inch from my seam line, and then I'm going to press it back. Let's see if I can make sure this is nice and pressed back. There we go. Now, on every block, the construction is exactly the same, but the measurements are going to be a little different. So all your blocks are going to be bordered 1.5 inch strip. So here's a nice 6-inch pumpkin, and I've turned it upright. The other one will be like this. And so you have to know where the top is, because you're only going to put this little border on 3 sides. So let's go ahead and do that with our little one right here. I'm going to cut my selvage off. And I want my pumpkin, this one, to be going this way. And I did them half and half. I just divided my little 5-inch ones in half, and half of them I stood up and half of them I laid down. So I'm just going to go along this edge right here, sew down the side. And then I'm just going to, because it's such a small distance, I'm just going to cut it here like this. And I'm going to sew down the other side. And because the construction is the same on all the blocks, this gets to be really, it gets to be really easy, because you do the same thing over and over again. You just have to remember which side is your top, because you're going to have to put a bigger piece on there than just the 1.5 inches. The 1.5 inches just frames it up. And then the next piece we're going to add is going to make it a block. Alrighty. So now let's go iron this. All right, so this is our block right here. And now we have to make it fit. So what I decided when I did this was that all of my pumpkins had to end up on a block that was the same size, so that we could make rows. So each of the size pumpkin has a different piece of fabric that you're going to cut to put in the top, and you're going to do them. So your little ones will have all the same, and your medium ones will have all the same, and your big ones will have all the same. And you're just going to put that piece on, and then you can sew your rows together to make it all go. So this pumpkin right here, these tiny ones, they all have to have a piece added to them that makes them all the same size. The unfinished size we're going for is 12.5. So this pumpkin right here, I'm going to use a 7-inch piece. This one I'm going to use a 7.5-inch piece. This one I'm going to use a 5.5-inch piece. And when I was making this, basically what I did was I cut it a little bigger so I could cut it down. The exact measurements are in the pattern, but I just wanted it a little bigger to make sure that I had enough room. Because, I was making it for the first time. So what I did once I got my piece cut, I'm going to press this. It has too many wrinkles in it to sew. So let me just press this edge right here. It's amazing what pressing does. Sewing with wrinkly fabric can be really tough. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay the top, which is this part of my pumpkin, on my strip. And I would take all the ones that are going sideways, I would take all of them and put them all on this strip and sew them at once. So what we're going to do here, I got my mat caught on there. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to sew these on. And then I would just add another pumpkin and add another pumpkin. But since we have this one here, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to let my pumpkin be the pattern, and I'm just going to trim it like this. Then I'll press it open, and then this is one pumpkin block. So let's press that up. So now's the time to add your stems, your leaves, and things like that. Now, to be honest, when I made this, I put the whole quilt together And I had it all up here, and it had no stems or leaves on it. And so people were looking at it, and they were just like, oh, that's a really interesting ball quilt, you know. So the stems and leaves add a lot. And so I actually added them after my quilt was done, and that meant I had to wrangle the whole quilt to machine piece these. So don't do that. Do it by the block. Do it by the block. That works best. All right, so what I did for my stems is I took a strip out of my pack of the 2.5, like this. And I cut me a 2.5-inch strip of the Heat and Bond, which is right here. And I'm going to iron this to my strip. So, you know, batik doesn't really have a side that is right or wrong. So this is just either side will work is what I'm trying to say. All right, so I'm going to press this. And we're going to put a couple of little stems and things on there for you to trace, but honestly, this was really fun for me. And so basically, I would draw my pumpkin stem. And if you can do it from the side like this, if you want a little short one. And I just basically drew like it almost looks like a little tumbler template, which you could use, but I wanted them all different. So some of them I did with a curve, and I just did this. And then my leaves were all just like this. So let me show you how good this looks, because it comes out way more fun than you think. All right, so we're going to go with this kind of straight stem on this one. I'm going to curve it a little on the bottom. So I even changed that after I cut it. We'll stick that on here like this. And then it needs a little leaf, so I'm going to cut a little leaf. And for my leaves, I actually kind of accordion fold them and cut a whole bunch at once. And I used pieces off different strips too. So you can see like this one and this one, this one are different. This one's, you know, I just used different pieces. One of the things I've learned in painting is that somewhere there's a pumpkin that's going to look like this. And I like that idea. All right, so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to lay this right on top of this pumpkin. I'm going to put this leaf right here on the edge. And I'm going to press that down. Just like that. Give it a good press. Stick it on there. Now I would take this to my sewing machine, and I would blanket stitch right around that stem right at this point. And so it'll just lay on there so nice, and it's way easier to work with. So you can blanket stitch, you can do the tiny zigzag, you can straight stitch it, whatever you want. You just need to hold that on there so that it, you know, so that you can stitch it down, so that when you put your blocks together, it all stays together. So this is our basic block that we're making, and we're just going to make them different sizes. So to show you what I mean, like this one right here, this is the same block as this one right here. They're both the same if we line them up this way, but this one's going to lay in my quilt this way, and this one's going to lay this way. So you're going to need different size pieces, fabric pieces for the top and for the bottom. So you just want to measure a piece that's going to make it 12.5 at the end of the day. And you can see I snowballed all of them first and then bordered them but left the top. And you can see from the quilt, you'll want to follow, if you want to follow the way we did it on the quilt. So we have two little pumpkins here, and one's up and one's down. This is the 6-inch strip, and it's sideways, a little one. This is an 8-inch strip up and down, and this is a little 5 and a little 6-inch strip again, but it's tall. And so just by turning them, you get a whole different size of pumpkin, and it makes it really, really cute. Now our rows, when I got them together, they weren't all exactly the same length. So what you're going to need to do is add a piece of fabric. I took my longest row, because they're all going different directions. I didn't know what size they were going to come out. Took your longest row, and I matched all my other rows to that longest row. And so like this one has a little 2.5-inch or 3-inch piece over here. This one has a 2.5-inch piece. And this one doesn't have anything because it's a nice long, it was my row that I measured everything else from. Now for all these borders, I did the same thing with these that I did with my pumpkins. I sewed 4 of these together. You know, I just picked my random colors, and I was really concerned about the pink in the fall and, you know, the blues and greens and how it would all work out. And I just really, I've fallen in love with this because I just think it's so darling. So you're going to sew 4 of these together like this. And once you get them sewn, you're going to cut them into 2.5-inch strips, all of them. And then you're just going to sew them together end to end to end to make these little borders. I mean, these little sashings and then these borders. So every pumpkin had one to it, a sashing added to it like this in between. And that's how we put the row together. And then we put this row in between. Now the border fabric I had was blue. I thought it was beautiful. The back is bright pink and it just came together so nice. And this is the pumpkin spice quilt because everybody loves pumpkin spice during this time of year. And I hope you'd give this a try and have fun with it. And we hope you enjoyed this tutorial from the Missouri Star Quilt Company.